favorite topics to talk about. So it's one thing to talk about Texas history, but you can't separate Texas history from Tejano history. And it's one thing to talk about the Tejano history, but it's another thing to actually see it. So I'm just so happy to bring several reenactors with us today so they can really truly understand and appreciate what really, what our Texas heroes, what our Tejano heroes were actually going through. You know, we got Wayne over here. I feel he looks like a General Sam Houston. Maybe he can say a few things about the significance of the Battle of San Jacinto. We have Bruce, you know, portraying John McGregor, the Scotsman who died at the Alamo, and of course, we got to have a Davy Crockett. We have Carlos Trevino came all the way from Brownsville, along with Bob Raymaker from Brownsville, to represent the brave Mexican soldiers who didn't want to be here, but there were soldiers that were following the commands of their general Santa Anna. They were here, and our symbol of our Tejanos is our very own Jaime Hernandez. Who I always kind of believe that our Tejanos were always left out of our history books. So I just kind of want to maybe go down what actually happened in 1835. The Texans and Tejanos, their tensions were rising and rising in Texas because General Santa Anna became president. He did away with the Mexican Constitution of 1820 national. He was probably who I believe was the most hunted man in Texas that Santa Anna wanted above all else. Does anybody remember that? Remember? Anybody can guess his name? He wasn't a Tejano, he was a Mexican national from Mexico City. His name was Lorenzo de Zavala. Zavala came from Mexico City, and all this time when Santa Anna was saying, you know, look at these Texans, look at these Tejanos, they're nothing but pirates. One thing that he could not deny was that his highest ranking cabinet official, who was the ambassador to France at the time, Lorenzo de Zavala, advocated his position, came to Texas, and sided with the Texans and the Tejanos. He was there at the signing of the Texas Declaration. And I just can't imagine what they were going through, the bravery and the courage that he could do, you know, declaring their independence when only just like 100 miles southwest on March 2nd, 1836, General Santa Anna was pounding the walls of the Alamo at the same time. About 150 miles southeast of the Alamo, you had the Mexican general Medea winning battle after battle after battle, a total of 4 battles. Probably he was the best commander in the Mexican army. He was going up against the worst commander in the Texas army, and that was Colonel Fannin. And yet they had the courage to stand up and say, hey, we want to declare our independence, knowing full well that if Santa Anna would ever gotten a hold of any of them, they were dead. They were dead. And the first major battle of the war actually happened after the skirmish of Gonzales and the skirmish of Goliad. It was the siege and the Battle of Behar, which was San Antonio. At the time, the commander-in-chief was Stephen F. Austin. He had a call to arms, and he wanted everybody to come out, lay siege to the city of San Antonio. Captain Juan Seguin answered the call. He came with 37 Tejanos. Captain Placido Benavides came with 27 Tejanos from Victoria. So they all sided with the Texans, and they laid siege to the city of San Antonio for about a month and a half. Come December the 5th, they all decided, Colonel Ben Milam, he said, listen, they wanted to call off the siege, go home, go home. It's getting cold. We'll come back during the summer, in the springtime. Ben Milam, he said, no. He said, guys, he took the butt of his rifle, drew a line in the sand, and that was documented, and he said, who's going to follow old Ben Milam into San Antonio? Follow me. And the Texans and the Tejanos all followed him into San Antonio. It was a 4-day battle, house to house, and they finally, the Mexican soldiers under General Cos, they actually retreat back into the Alamo. General Cos had 1,000 Mexican soldiers. The Texans and the Tejanos, they numbered between 400 to 500 on any given day, and yet Cos couldn't defend the Alamo, and he gave it up. But there were Tejanos at that battle. At the battle, there were Tejanos at the Battle of Concepcion. It happened about 2 miles outside of San Antonio, and you had Captain Juan Seguin and his Tejanos there fighting with Colonel Jim Bowie, and then it was Captain James Fannin, and yet with a party of 97, they were able to beat Mexican soldiers of over 300. So one thing that we're going to come up in all these different battles is Captain Juan Seguin and his Tejano soldiers. But they were there, and yet Captain Seguin, you're going to find out, was in 5 different battles. 5 different battles, more battles than any other of our Texas heroes. Jeff Smith was in 4 battles, but Seguin was actually in 5, and he was the only one who can actually say that he was there during the siege of the Alamo. On the 3rd day of the Alamo, he was sent out as a messenger for reinforcements to reinforce the Alamo. But he was there for 3 days, and he was also there at the Battle of San Jacinto. But you're going to look at all of our reenactors, and it brings history back to life. Because unfortunately, you don't see anything really of any major importance attributed to Captain Seguin and his Tejanos. Maybe not even a footnote, maybe just a footnote on the pages of Texas history. But at all our different battles, you're going to see that Seguin was there, and his Tejanos were at most of the major battles. But the Battle of Béjar, the Battle of Concepcion, the grass fight, and then we talk about the Alamo. But when we talk about the Alamo, of course, we all think of Davy Crockett. We all think of Colonel Travis drawing the line of the stand. We think of Jim Bowie, probably dying of typhoid pneumonia, but they were there. Yet there were Tejanos there at the Battle of the Alamo. There were, we know that at least there were 8 of them were there that died, right alongside Davy Crockett, Bowie, Travis. No, but who remembers Juan Abamillo? Who remembers Juan Antonio Padillo? Carlos Esparza, Gregorio Esparza, Carlos Espalier, Antonio Fuentes, Toribio Lozoya, Andres Nava, and Damasio Jimenez. They're forgotten from history, but yet they paid the same price as Crockett and Bowie and Travis at the Alamo. And we just want to remember them and honor their memory and their courage, because they were just as brave and courageous as our Texas heroes. So we can't really separate them one from the other, and that's our concept. And then we also have the Battle of San Jacinto. San Jacinto, and if you read the history books, they'll say that Jeff Smith and Captain Henry Carnes were out on patrol, and then they saw a Mexican messenger on the plains, and they decided to go after the messenger. They were able to capture all his letters and communications. But in the memoirs of Juan Seguin, in his memoirs, he actually states that his Tejanos, he had 2 Tejanos that were out watering their horses. They saw a messenger on the plains of San Jacinto, along with a captain, a Mexican captain, and a fellow Tejano that belonged to, that was part of Juan Seguin's company of Tejanos, but was captured by Santana and used as a guide. So here we go with what Texas history writes, and then if those of us who have read the memoirs of Captain Juan Seguin, he writes something different, that his two scouts saw the riders on the planes. They go into the camp, alert Sam Houston, and that's when they sent out F. Smith, who was the leader of the Texas Scouts, and Captain Henry Carnes. And I read somewhere, somehow, someplace that one of Seguin's Tejanos, Lieutenant Ambrosio Rodriguez, was there during the interrogation. I read that somewhere. I can't find it anymore, but it makes me just realize that the Tejanos were part of that battle, of that capture. And from that capture of that Mexican messenger, they were able to find out that Santa Anna was detached from his Mexican, detached from the rest of his Mexican main force. And that's what made Sam Houston turn around and find the right location, which was the plains of San Jacinto, because there was the Buffalo Bayou on one side, there was the San Jacinto River on the other side, and that would negate that would prevent the Mexican cavalry from outflanking him. So I believe we owe so much to Captain Juan Seguin and to his Tejano scouts, and maybe if we can ask some of the reenactors if they want to say a few things about why they're reenactors, because they add so much to our event. Wayne, would you like to say a few things about the significance of the Battle of San Jacinto?
Yeah, I guess I can do that. I can't tell you about being a reenactor because I never get to be one. I'm always fixing something someplace.
Yes. This year will be different.
Yeah. I guess every revolution and every civil war, and somebody loses, somebody wins, and the winners forget. And Texas was the winner. Mexico was the loser. Mexico hadn't forgotten. Just like the Civil War, and the South hadn't forgotten, and still waving flags and things. But I just like to remind everybody that this thing changed the world. It changed the United States, and then it changed the world, because it was the first step. When the Texas Revolution was won in San Jacinto, Texas was an independent nation for 9 years, and then it became part of the United States, and then a war was fought with Mexico over the border. And when that happened, essentially, after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the United States became that nation from sea to shining sea. They had always wanted to be. And they got California and Utah, and part of Utah, and Colorado, and New Mexico, and Arizona, and all of Texas became the United States after that war. And you can't second judge history. We know that the United States is the most powerful nation on earth, and maybe the most benevolent, I hope. But we don't know what it would have been like if that hadn't happened. If we'd lost at San Jacinto, then what would the world be like? It would be a completely different place, entirely different place. So this was a game changer for the whole world, if you really think about it. And it kind of boggles my mind to think about things like that. It's kind of like if you could go back and change it a little bit and watch and see what happened, it'd be fun. But you got to remember that these things were amazing things when you got a small group of people fighting. Actually, the Mexican army at that time was the largest army in the North American continent, and these people in Texas got together and fought against that army and won. And just maybe by fluke, but it was an amazing battle. That last battle, the Texans lost 9 people total. The Mexican army lost 600 people, and they captured another 650 of them. So it's approximately. And it was a completely one-sided battle. It's like somebody from above decided the outcome. Maybe, I don't know, but it's a great thing, and we like to celebrate it every year. And I hope that all of y'all will bring your friends out there when we do this on March 11th. And we had about 10,000 people out there last year. Wow. And we should like to see you all come.
Thank you so much. Bruce, would you like to say anything?
Sure.
That old story that you always share with me? McGregor?
I represent John McGregor, who was one of four Scottish immigrants that fought and died at the Alamo. During the latter days, or later days actually, of the siege, he and David Crockett would get music duels. McGregor played the bagpipes, and Crockett played the fiddle. And they would sit down at night and have duels to see who could outplay the other. And of course, they had all the other group. You know, you had a dire situation. You're surrounded by overwhelming numbers, and you're almost sure that you're going to die. So morale, was pretty much at rock bottom. So what these two individuals did by playing the music and singing the songs, trying to bring morale up of those fighters. I've seen some pictures of McGregor killed. I've seen some as in skins. There's different representations depending on what history book that you look at. I also wear my kilt to honor my Scottish heritage. I have I don't know whether any of you, this is a little off topic, but Captain William Kidd, the Scottish pirate, is my 7th great grandfather. And I have been told since, I was knee-high to nothing, that he was a relative. And this past summer, I made the connection through Ancestry.com, and I'm moving and running around the family. I found it. But we date back into my family back into the 1500s. So when I was asked to be I always, run around in a kilt, and my grandfather was also in the Black Watch Regiment during World War I, so I went outfit for the Black Watch. He was a member of the Mackay clan, which fought with William Wallace and Robert the Bruce. So my name is Robert Bruce, so I am after the Scottish king. So I have a clan or a kilt outfit in the Mackay as well. So I love history. So when I had the opportunity to join this group, I did it wholeheartedly. This is my 2nd year. And we built a scale model of the Alamo on the fairgrounds. It's only 2 feet shorter than the actual Alamo. Now, those that have gone out there and saw it last year, it does not have the familiar cupola. It is in 1836, that wasn't there. That was not put on until some years later when the American Army went through and they were going to raise that whole mission and say we're going to turn it into a fort and whatever. The general said, no, we're not. This is hallowed ground. People died and their blood soaks this ground. And this is a shrine, and it will stay as a shrine in Milwaukee. So that's kind of my why of doing what we do. Thank you.
We appreciate you doing it. And now for Jaime Hernandez, who's our symbol today, who represents all the Tejanos that fought and died for Texas independence.
I'm a retired school teacher, mostly taught high school. I focus most on world history. That's one reason I like to do this. I am dressed today as Gregorio Esparza. What's significant about Gregorio Esparza is that he was the only Alamo defender that was allowed to be buried. All the rest of them were burned. And the reason for that is because his brother, when he was inside the Alamo, his brother was outside attacking the Alamo with the Mexican army. The story goes that when the battle was over, San Juan was going into the Alamo, he saw one of his soldiers crying over the body of a dead Tejan. That was his brother. And he asked him, why do you cry? Oh, this is my brother. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. But he gave orders that he could take his body and bury it. And his family was there with him, his wife, his kids. His oldest son, Enrique, later told a story. He actually witnessed the battle. Most of the women and children were in the barracks, but he came out during the battle and saw the carnage and reported how bloody it was just before it ended, because it was all hand-to-hand. Today, we understand that he was buried in the old San Antonio Cemetery, which is under Santa Rosa Medical Center. You familiar with San Antonio? They built that on top of it. So that is where his grave is. It covered part of the cemetery. Okay, again, Representative Gregorio Esparza, only one to be buried from the island.
And all the Tejanos that fought and died for Texas. Whenever we talk about Texas War for Independence, we think of the Alamo, we always have to remember our Davy Crockett. You would like to say a few things, a few words?
Yes. You know, I think everybody knows who Davy Crockett was and what he did and what his reputation was, so I'm not going to talk about him. But I'm going to talk to you about the flag that was flown in the Alamo and that was captured by Mexico. This flag is it backwards. This represents the New Orleans Greens. This flag was captured by Santana. It still is in Mexico City in a museum there. We have been trying to get the flag back, but Mexico has denied it, and we're going to return to us. But this, as far as I know, this is the only flag that was flown in Alamo. We don't know if it was the other flag flown like 1824 or the Topila flag, which has two stars. We don't really know. But surely that flag is there. You can log into the web and you see the actual flag there in Mexico City. Okay? Now I have another flag that I had made also. This flag was by the Mexican, this was a Batallón Matamoros Presente. These were the most bravest and the best